Hello, everyone. It's Francis Widdowson here. The reason for this short video is once again to discuss the craziness that is going on with respect to the claims about unmarked graves. And this time I wanted to examine the views of Benjamin Kucher. And for people who are not aware of who Benjamin Kucher is, he is a graduate student at the University of Alberta, and he has been making all sorts of posts on Twitter about the unmarked graves and his thoughts on these matters. Now, I know a lot of people aren't on what used to be called Twitter, and so what I've done is I've created a post which I will link in the description so you can take a look at those documents at your leisure and you don't have to go and get yourselves a Twitter account. Um, so, Benjamin Kucher, I first became aware of Benjamin Kucher in 2024, 2023, late 2023, early 2024, when I was invited by Kathleen Lowry to give a presentation at the University of Alberta that was ironically going to be titled Academic Freedom Under Threat, where I would be talking about the major threats to academic freedom. Benjamin Kucher was the co-president of the Indigenous Graduate Students Association at the University of Alberta, or some organization like that. And he did an interview for the local paper, for the university paper, which said that this was very disturbing that I was coming to give this talk. And it was heartbreaking, and it was causing everyone to be very nervous because they were afraid of having to encounter me on campus. And as a result of this, there was a student, well, not, there was other things involved probably as well, but it certainly acted to embolden students who came to my lecture and disrupted my lecture. And you can listen to the entire lecture and the disruption on that the wokeacademy.info site on that post, which I've linked. So I had a bit of a background of Benjamin Kucher, and then I was quite interested to see his posts on what's now called X, where he had this long, 10-point thread on denialism is violence. So that was what he led off with. And of course, this, to phrase it that way, first of all, denialism doesn't make any sense. Anyway, it's just asking questions which need to be asked about highly improbable claims. But secondly, sort of characterizing it as violence gives ammunition to people who want to criminalize asking questions about the residential schools, because if it's violent, obviously something should be done to shut down this speech. And then we have our favorite figure, Sean Carlton, otherwise known as Uber Clown. The Uber Clown steps in and, gives support to Kucher when he's doing this. And then that led me to ask the question, is it saying that the remains of 215 children existing at the Kamloops case, if saying that that is extremely improbable that that would be the case, is that an example of violent denialism? Raises this point with Kucher. Anyway, at some point I discovered that Kucher had blocked me, of course, on Twitter. So I've from that point on, I had to make my commentary on my own account. But it appears that Kucher is somewhat aware of my comments that I'm making too. So he's sort of watching what I'm doing, but behind his block, so that I can't directly respond on his account. And this led Kucher to make another many point thread where he starts talking about how he's being attacked. And of course, this is the major Crybully play in the playbook of the Crybully, that you're the one who's trying to criminalize things and have serious repercussions for people who are discussing this area, but you act like you're the victim, you're the one who's being attacked. And then of course, Negon Sinclair, otherwise known as Brainless II, comes in and says how wonderful this post is of Kucher's. Anyway, so what I did in response to this, post that Kucher put up is that I sort of asked, you know, that these clandestine burials, that there's no clandestine burials being found in Kamloops, Cooper Island, and Seashelt, because we don't have any examples of this. Is this, again, an instance of denialism? And then I made a post about Nina Green's excellent piece on Cooper Island, where Green is saying that Andrew Martindale, who is the archaeologist connected to Cooper Island, who argued that there were 342 unmarked graves found, Nina Green observed that no report from Andrew Martindale has been released. And it's very important that we have reports of these ground penetrating radar searches so that we can assess the methodology. And this leads Kucher to say that Indigenous groups should decide whether or not that they want to release their data, and for people who are not a member of that Indigenous group to make this demand, again, is denying Indigenous sovereignty. It's got this oppressive character to it, and as well, it's a bad faith move by people who are demanding to see these reports. Now, what this doesn't address is that all sorts of demands are being made from all members of Canadian society on the basis of these GPR searches. All sorts of funding has been made available, public funds for excavations, which have not been done. All sorts of lawsuits have emerged on this basis, and other transfers. So these GPR searches have a great deal to do with everyone in Canada, and therefore no one should feel that it is inappropriate to be making these demands, that we have all the information before us so we can properly assess whether it is likely that clandestine burials have been found in these instances. Anyway, I just wanted to alert you to the activities of Benjamin Kucher, who's another one of these figures in all these crazy things that are going on. Thanks very much for listening.